everybody. Welcome to the Appalachian ADV Community Podcast. Thanks for listening. Today, I brought my buddy Brad here from Last Adventure Travel. We want to talk to Brad a little bit this morning. How you doing, Brad?
Hey, I'm doing good, Kane. Good to talk to you, man.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
thanks for having me.
So Brad and I have become friends over the last year or so, and we've helped each other out with a couple things. So we want to talk about all kind of stuff today. So Brad, you did Last Adventure Travel. What made you think about starting that? Like, how did you go from high school to that? Like, give us a short story.
Yeah. So, you know, born and raised here in Ohio, and and graduated high school, all that good stuff, and messed around for a couple years, like a lot of people do, just searching for what they want to do with their life, and I decided to join the Army back in 2012, and joined the Army, became a medic, and um, went down to San Antonio for my medical training, all that good stuff. And I remember, they were picking duty stations and things like that, and I was young and single, all that stuff, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get to go to Germany or Korea or somewhere like that. And they said, McFadden, you're going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was like, Kentucky? I was like, man, I've been to Kentucky before, but no, it was great. I was in the 101st Airborne Division, famous from Banner Brothers, all that stuff,
Yeah.
and deployed to Afghanistan 2015, and I got back in I got back in October, and I went on terminal leave in November, and I was out of the military about 3 months after I got back. So it was just a crazy adjustment back to civilian life, and I think I, like a lot of other veterans out there, really that brotherhood and community that you get in the military, you start searching for something that can get close to that, right?
Yeah.
And I did so many different things, just trying new things. I started golfing a lot, but I liked it. It was fun. It just wasn't it. I shoot, I went skiing a couple times, bought a real expensive pair of skis, and really enjoyed it, but it just wasn't that. So I remember it was it was right about it was right about my 30th birthday, and I'm sitting there like, man, I'm 30. Like, what am I even doing with myself? And a couple weeks after that, my dad called me up on a like a Tuesday or Thursday. It's like 10 o'clock at night. So my first thought is like, oh man, something happened, like something happened to grandma, grandpa, whatever. So I answered the phone, and I'm like, hey, is everything all right? He said, Brad, how would you like to buy enduro bikes and go across America on dirt roads and gravel roads? And I'm sitting there thinking like, grandma's okay, so she's good. Like, what is going on here? And it, it wasn't his first idea, it wasn't his last. I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever. And next thing you know, a week later, he buys a DR 650, and I'm like, wow, I guess this is real. Yeah, so I'm like, well, I guess I ought to get a DR 650 too, so we have the same tools, don't have to carry two sets of tools. So
Right.
about a week after that, picked me up a 2009 DR 650, and started hitting, you know, the trail and the road mainly. I'm here from West Central Ohio, Clark County, so there's not a lot of gravel, near us. But
Mhm.
I remember, and I'd never ridden a bike. I mean, I think I had operated one thing with a clutch, in my entire life. And I remember that first time I got on, it was like, well, you just let this thing out with your left hand and give it a twist with your right hand, and there you go. And I about ran into a tree, went straight in the line, and about crashed the thing. But yeah, we had a trip in 2020, hit the Trans America Trail, and it was a week. we did the West Virginia and Virginia, North Carolina sections, and it was a week that just, really changed a lot of things for me. And I feel like I had found what I was looking for, just getting off the beaten path and really finding a sense of fulfillment, right, with that.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. So I feel like, we've definitely had like a fairly similar trajectory. Like, I was smarter and went to the Air Force.
Yeah, the country club, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
were all
we kind
jealous
of,
of the Air Force people.
yeah, yeah. We kind of like had that same trajectory. And like the Band of Brothers thing, that's definitely like, you know, one of my favorite military shows of all time. It's just, and it really highlights like how close those guys got. And that's kind of definitely like coming from team sports for me, like that was always like a big thing. Um,
Right.
building Appalachian ADV and you building Lost at Last, very similar trajectories. And luckily we're close enough that we can kind of like share, information to each other and kind of help each
Right.
other out.
Yeah, a shared experience. I think that's what brings people together, is just common experiences and overcoming the same challenges and adversity and getting through the other side and it just brings people closer together.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting fact, so the Band of Brothers, that unit was Easy Company 2506.
Yep.
They're the Currahee, and the Currahee actually disbanded. The Army did some downsize thing in 2013, and the brigade that I was in, the Rakasans, if any Army people out there, they sure know the Tory, but the Currahee was actually kind of brought in by all the different brigades, and our brigade actually took on the 2506 battalion and Easy Company. So I actually used to drive by Easy Company 2506 like every day on the way to Parasol School or whatever, and I'm like, man, that's them. That's the historical unit,
Yeah.
and just the significance of what they did and accomplished really brought a greater appreciation for history and things of significance, for me, which kind of led me to kind of the focus of Lost at Last and the Great Ohio Adventure Trail and everything is just, what makes places significant and the history and all that.
Yeah. It's great when you can connect the dots, like from like your military service to that great company of men that stepped up to the plate when bad things were happening. Like to be able to connect yourself to that in some form or fashion, that's pretty awesome. It's something that I loved
Right.
about the military too, for sure, is being able to connect to ancestors of the past that had done something like that. And then, like you mentioned, it was a big reason for you starting Lost at Last and wanting to like connect history to adventure tourism and adventure travel. So like what was your when you first started Lost at Last, like what was your mindset? Like what were you trying to give to people with putting that together?
Yeah, Lost at Last. So I started adventure riding in 2019, and up until about 2021, I was kind of like everybody, just getting out on the bike every now and then and checking out a gravel road every so often. But a couple years later, I kind of fell back into that rut of just being super stressed out at work and just things were not going, my way, just going through kind of a tough time personally. And I remember December of 21, I was out in Arizona visiting my sister, and I rented a BMW 1250, which great bike by the way, shaft drive, just beautiful. But I remember I was out on the mountain road, out in the Four Peaks Wilderness, and just kind of staring off into the distance and just doing a little soul searching and just trying to figure out, hey, where do I go from here and all that. And I remember this dude just out of nowhere just came around a corner, which he's the first person I saw all day, you know. So he's like, hey, I got to talk to this guy. So we start talking, and I remember I said something like, man, people would be really lost out here, and they'd be calling for the helicopter to come get them and everything. And he was like, well, we're not most people. This is where we want to be.
Yeah.
And when he said that, just the light bulb just went off in the head, and I was like, man, like we are different from normal people because this is what we search for, just embracing just being off the beaten path. And then I had an idea that was where many are lost, we are found.
Yeah.
And I was like, lost at last. Like that's it. That's
Yeah.
once we get there to where we're looking for and off the beaten path, we're there. We're finally there. So there was a guy, Langhorne Slim, really good singer-songwriter, actually had an album called Lost at Last Volume 1 a few years back, and his press release and everything for it, he said it's about bucking from societal norms. And like, wow, yeah, we're different from people, and that's kind of how Lost at Last started. And what I really wanted to do was just kind of share my experience of searching for something that could give me that sense of fulfillment. And how can I share that with people? So, like a lot of people, I decided to start a blog, and I wrote like 3 articles, and then somebody said, hey, you should get on YouTube. I'm like, well, all right. But so I bought a video camera and all that, and started a little YouTube channel, and all of a sudden I'm here talking to you. So it's all blur in between.
Yeah. That's was looking through your stuff, and something that caught my attention was you talking about the YouTube thing, was the PBS of adventure travel. I thought
Yeah,
that was really freaking a good way to use those terms together. Like, because you came along um, with me on one of my tours and played sweet for me, and we went out into Allegheny and had a great time. Dragging people
yeah,
through a couple of spots of minor trauma, but I think we
right.
had a good time overall. And then you
Yeah,
put together a nice little video at the end of it, and it was definitely like a PBS documentary style thing. So I think you're doing a really good thing, like with lots of laughs in general, but all the other facets of that too, because looking through your website and stuff, you notice that there are, we're here to talk about motorcycles, and that's kind of where we focus in a lot of our stuff. But your Lost at Last is doing more than just adventure bikes.
right. Yeah, it's, adventure travel is really just embracing the unknown and discovering the joy of adventure travel. And there's just so many different aspects, and you don't have to be on a motorcycle. I mean, I obviously prefer to be on a motorcycle, but I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on an adventure bike or just driving somewhere in your car. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to explore the world around you, and there really hasn't been a better time than right now to do that, especially with the boom in outdoor recreation and things since the COVID pandemic, and it's been great just to hear people just saying, hey, I watched your YouTube video on the Grand Canyon, and I decided to start planning a trip for the Grand Canyon. Or here in Ohio, run into somebody out on some township road and just saying, yeah, I'm here because I watched your video and wanted to check out this part of Ohio. So
Yeah.
just being able to have that impact on folks to inspire them to get out their front door and check out things that most people wouldn't want to check out. Not only that, but just they're going to spend a couple bucks at the local general store and support that economy and community. And that's really big for me because there's a lot of areas out there. I mean, just as well as I do that there's a lot of areas that need some help and some extra people coming to check it out. And if I can be a part of steering them that way, that's what I like to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, what caught my attention, similar to your story, was once I got on the bike and realized there was all this great terrain to cover that a lot of people don't go to. Going back to how you came up with that whole lost to last thing, like sometimes you don't know what's out there until you just go out there and get a little bit lost. So once I got
Right.
on that bike and started hitting those dirt and gravel roads and seeing all these little small communities and the little mom and pop stores, and you throwing tents on the back of the bike and you're going out and you're like, holy crap, man, this is just, how did I not know
Right.
about this sooner? And I'm so happy
Yeah.
that like the adventure and dual sport community is kind of like expanding and, getting more and more interest because, with the current state of politics and
Right.
social media and all this stuff, like I think those things don't necessarily have to be bad, but like people need places to disconnect a little bit and to just go out in the
Yeah.
woods together and help each other get bikes through crazy things and, you know, form some camaraderie. Because, going back to that Band of Brothers thing, like I think they highlighted very well, like how diverse that group of guys was. Like they came from all
Right.
over the place, all kind of different backgrounds, all kind of different political leanings, and
Yeah.
you know, and it didn't matter once they were out there doing the thing. They had to do the thing together. And you get guys that are complete opposites becoming really close friends just because of that shared experience and being able to go out and kind of strip all that crap away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the adventure community, for me is probably the closest thing to that military experience and that community and that brotherhood that there is. Now,
Yeah.
caveat on that, I've never been in a pickleball league, so that could top it. But no, just that overcoming adversity and just everybody's just trying to get through the same stretch of road. It don't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or whatever. I mean, you're just trying to get up the hill and pick the right line, and we're all going to help each other get through it together. And at the end, once everybody's through and we've picked up bikes 100 times and everybody's made it through successfully, we're going to high five, and it don't matter if you're the CEO of some Fortune 500 company or you're a freelance piano tuner or something. you know uh, we're high fiving. We just shared that same experience, and it brings us closer together. So that's what I really really enjoyed about the community, and just beyond motorcycles too.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're hiking rim to rim of the Grand Canyon and we both make it to the other side, it don't matter if you're black or white or some other nationality or whatever. We both did it. We're gonna high five at the end and be friends for life, probably.
Yeah, the way you get to the thing, it doesn't matter as much. Like for us, or for me in particular, and I know with you, with what you've been doing, we kind of like to use the motorcycle as the means of making that travel happen. But it can happen on 2 feet, it can happen on four wheels, it can any
Yeah,
different way. Because I know you do a bunch of overlanding too. Like it's
yeah,
and we've tried to, you know, the one event that I do, at least I do try to have the ability for quads and side by side stuff to come through. It doesn't really matter. Not doesn't have to specifically be the motorcycle, but as long as it's something that
right.
gets you out there doing that thing and building experiences and sharing, you know, some level of trauma together that you make it through to the other side, it just forms that, those bonds harder than anything.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the motorcycle for me, I mean, obviously it's I love doing it, and being on an adventure motorcycle just kind of brings you you're one with the elements. You know, the wind affects you, the weather, the rain, the the terrain, the getting dust in your face from following a bunch of people on one of your tours. You know, uh, you're one with the elements. But I mean, if I didn't have a motorcycle, obviously I would be very very sad. But Lost at Last and just the joy of adventure travel is it's a feeling, it's an experience as opposed to I have to buy a $30,000 BMW or a $15,000 KTM. You know, I could go out in my old Chevy Cruze and get the experience of being off the beaten path and the different joys with adventure travel. I mean, I can hit a crazy uphill on a Chevy Cruze and I might not make it to the top and have to back all the way down, which may or may not have happened at some point. But I overcame that adversity, that the joy of achievement and exploration and just discovering new places and having an appreciation for where you're at and just being really grateful to have the opportunity to explore these public lands and different places that you probably wouldn't have checked out if you weren't trying to search for a cool experience.
Exactly. So that leads us into the GOAT, I'd say, pretty well. So for those who don't know the GOAT, Great Ohio Adventure Trail. So my friend Brad here has put in an ungodly amount of time and effort into Ohio, specifically Ohio adventure riding, whether it's on a bike or, as we were talking about, kind of like the overland thing. So creating a route basically from the river to the lake through Ohio, highlighting, 1,000+ miles of Ohio, basically small towns, great roads. So with that as the summary, and we've talked about this in the past,
Yeah.
because we've kind of mentioned that you've come along with me on my Allegheny tour, and when we're putting those routes together, there's definitely like a story there that we're trying to tell.
Right.
So, like, if you can, let us know, like, when you were putting that go together, and you're saying, oh, this to that to this to that, and this little town, like, what kind of story were you trying to tell with the goat?
Yeah. I mean, everybody has a story and every place has a story. And through Lost at Last, I think it's just a means to tell the story, you know, whether it's through YouTube or social media posts and stuff. And I remember I had just watched the Wyoming BDR came out in 2022, and in the year before that, I remember the Backcountry Discovery Route organization. They had just celebrated 10 years, and they came out with this 10 years of the BDR documentary. And
Yeah.
I remember watching Bryce Stevens, one of the co-founders of the BDR. I remember watching him just out in his truck, just looking at maps and scouting the Washington BDR, which was the first one, I believe. But just watching him and then really just that process of what they do, of highlighting these places that may need a little bit of boost in the economy. Um, these places that are significant in history and all that. Really got me thinking. In Ohio, there are a couple of existing adventure routes, long distance ones. There's the Trans Ohio Trail, which is a fantastic. It's about a 1,200-mile loop through eastern and southern Ohio. And there's also the Southern Ohio Adventure Loop, which is primarily in Adams and Scioto County and a couple hundred miles. Fantastic, couple day ride and all that. But I was looking and I was like, these are all loops, which is great for you can park your truck somewhere and take the bike off and hit the loop. But there isn't anything that there's no BDR style route which has a beginning and an end. I
Yeah,
say every journey has a beginning and an end. And Ohio is the perfect state too, because you can start and end at two bodies of water. The Ohio River, which
yeah,
which is obviously one of the most important means of transportation in our nation's history. Um,
definitely.
in Lake Erie in the north, which I mean, also significant transportation, but also in history. There were many battles fought on Lake Erie in the War of 1812,
Yeah,
uh, and just really important for our commerce. So I was like, well, shoot, I'll just make something from the Ohio River to Lake Erie. So I obviously had a start and an end, but the thing is finding what's in between. And Ohio, and as I built the route and just learned more about the state, I gained a greater appreciation for what we do have here. I think people sometimes take it for granted, or they just don't think about it like that. Um, but we have 76 state parks in Ohio, and all of them are free to enter. You can just go in there and make a picnic or whatever. There's only 8 states in the U.S. that offer free entry into their state parks. So I'm like, well, that's a big deal. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources actually celebrated their 50th anniversary in, oh, I'm sorry, their 75th anniversary in 2024. They were started in 1949, but all sorts of great campgrounds and stuff all throughout the state. And I had a place to pitch a tent at the end of the day.
yeah,
There's all sorts of different state forests and also the Wayne National Forest. The Ohio's only natural national forest, and they had 3 different units. The Ironton, the Athens, and the Marietta unit of Wayne. So I mean, just finding a way to really connect all the dots there and make a cool route. And I think that's what at the end of it, I looked and I was like, wow, we really got something here.
yeah. I would say so for sure. Like, just from being in the community, we have, here in Ohio, we have the Adventure Riders of Ohio, which is a nice Facebook group of, a ton of the. I mean, there's so much motorcycle in the state of Ohio. That's why the AMA is here, because
Right.
we just love our motorcycles here in Ohio, and we have a big group of adventure riders here in the state. And mentioning the other routes that are available, the Tot and the Soul, and now yours, like there are so many. If you look at social media and you're, like me,
Yeah.
it's mostly motorcycle stuff that I'm looking at. There is so many people that comment on all three of those routes, and your route has been a huge hit um, in the state. And I think even people from out of state have since they've becoming aware of it, have shown a lot more interest in coming to the state of Ohio to do this. And I think, in general, people just don't think of Ohio in that way.
Yeah.
So it is somewhat of our best kept secret. Um, but there
Yeah, no
is just
doubt.
a ton of great riding in the state, mostly, along where the Ohio River's at, up through, um, towards the lake. There's definitely like so much good riding here that it's great that
Yeah.
we have people like you and the guys that did the Tot and the Soul that are interested in sharing that with people.
Yeah, and there's a tremendous diversity of terrain too. I think a lot of people, when they think about Ohio, they think about either the Ohio State Buckeyes, or a cornfield.
Right.
They don't think about Shawnee State Forest, which is they call it the Little Smokies
Yeah.
because the trees emit the same blue hue as obviously the Smoky Mountains down in
Yeah.
Tennessee, North Carolina, and the forest roads too are I mean tight switchbacks and you wouldn't expect that kind of riding in Ohio. You also have a lot of open areas from the former strip mine areas. So I mean you can go from dense forest to open strip mine on the same stretch of ride, and it's just a tremendous diversity because some places you go, it's either all going to be forest or all going to be open farmland or all going to be just straight and flat and whatnot. But Ohio has a little something to offer everybody. And as I've traveled throughout the years, I've met a lot of people from Ohio. I remember I was down in Florida one time and met somebody that grew up like 20 minutes from where I grew up. But a lot of people that don't live in Ohio, they say, well, Ohio is a great place to be from, but not to be. And I think about that and just the experience that I've had of traveling, all throughout, Appalachia here and Amish country and all those different places. I would like to get away from that notion of, only a great place to be from.
Yeah.
I want people to see that it's not just a great place to be from, but it's a great place to explore.
Right.
And logistically too, Ohio is within about a day's drive of about 50 or 60% of the population of the U.S., which is really cool. I mean, you don't have to haul your bike 20 hours out to Colorado or Utah or something to have a good experience off the beaten path. I mean, you got something right here in your own back door.
Right. That's something that I think I've said in the past. I've written an article and said something similar. Like, I think people, when you grow up around a thing, it can be taken for granted, like what you actually have around you, just because you see it all the time, and you know, life gets mundane in its own way.
Yeah,
But that's, what I think you're capturing exactly what I was thinking when I first started riding. I lived in Columbus
yeah,
when I first started riding, and within 40 minutes, you're down in the Hocking Hills area. Wayne National Forest section is right there. And once I started
right.
exploring down there, I was just like blown away. I was like, I can't believe I'm actually in the state of Ohio. Like, I never
Yeah,
knew that Hocking Hills area was a thing. Like, you felt like you're transported to some mystical place out west almost. So
right.
I think that is definitely like one of the best things about adventure and dual sport is that we do have the opportunity to say, hey, this isn't mundane. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you just never thought was there, because why would you ever go on this back road? you know,
Right, right.
Giving you the opportunity to go on that back road by saying, hey, jump on this bike and let's go out and let's do this thing.
Yeah, I remember too discovering Tinker's Cave.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people visit it during the Whalen Wayne weekend. I think you may even pass by it on your
Yep.
really awesome loop that you do there. But I remember reading about Tinker's Cave, and I was like, man, I got to check this place out. So I'm out on this random gravel road, and I get to the waypoint that says Tinker's Cave, and I'm like, where's the cave? I'm just on the road looking at a bunch of trees, and then I see a little opening in the grass going down the hill. I was like, I gotta go down the hill. So I stumbled down the hill. It's kind of a steep walk, so just be careful. But I get down this path, and all of a sudden, here is this massive overhang rock shelter cave thing, and it's right below the road I was just on.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking, man, if what a cool opportunity I mean, if I wasn't looking for it or thinking about it, I would have
Yeah.
just passed overhead and not, given a care in the world. But because of that curiosity about the world around us and in different places, I stopped and went down the hill and discovered just this really awesome little cave. Story of Tinker's Cave. Shep Tinker was a horse thief, and what would happen would be he would steal some horses, uh, 10, 15, 20. You could fit 20 horses in that cave, but he would take them to the cave after he stole them, wait a couple days for things to die down, and once it was free and clear, he would take them out of there. But that's how it came to be known as Tinker's Cave. And you think about, before you go to it, you think about like this probably can't be that big. But once you're in it and just kind of see the scale of it, you're like, holy crap, you could probably fit 30 horses in here. But I would have just never ever thought to see something like that if it wasn't for adventure travel.
Yeah. So something else I want to highlight while we're still talking about the goat is you started kind of building miniature little loops off of certain sections, and you've done some group rides where you've invited people to come out with you. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, how you decided to try to build the loops, and then how you started getting people to come out with you.
Yeah, the loops were uh, they gave you an opportunity to feature a little bit more stuff that you couldn't put on the main route. The main route's 1,100 miles, so if I included everything that I wanted to see, it'd probably be a 3,000 mile just zigging and zagging every single possible road you could find.
Yeah.
But with the loops, I had a lot of people asking, hey, I want to ride section 5 of the goat. Where can I park my truck in the middle so I can go back to the beginning? And it's really hard if I only have a Saturday or a Sunday or just one day, it is kind of hard to ride one section of the goat because you're going from one place to another.
Right.
But with loops, you have obviously a looping beginning and end where you're going back to the same point. And a lot of people only have, a weekend or so. So I decided to try to put together some kind of day rides you could do, featuring different sections of the trails. So right now there are 3 different goat loops. There's section 5, section 6, and also section 3. There are a couple more in the works. One around section 4, like the Whale and Wayne weekend kind of area, and section 9. I think could have some good potential there. But
Yeah.
that kind of goes into your territory, man. I don't want to be stomping on on your grounds and causing
Well,
trouble. But no, yeah. So they're about 100 miles apiece. That to me that's a good day in the saddle is about 100 miles.
mhm.
Uh, just gives you plenty of time to unload and take your time and explore around you. And once I started building those, a lot of people are like, hey, can we get a group together and do a little ride? And I was like, well, that sure we could do something like that. And the Adventure Riders Ohio Facebook group, they have a really awesome camping ride every summer that Laura McCartney puts together, and
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite things because I mean it's like 10 people and you're sitting around a campfire hanging out, and then Saturday you go out for the ride, and then Sunday you pack up and head home. So I was like, well, maybe I'll do a little something like that. So I put something together in October of 23, and I remember showing up to the campground. I promoted as a group ride on Saturday. I was like, well, I'm going to be camping on Friday if you want to camp and all
Yeah.
that. So I show up to this campground, and there's like 3 people there. I remember Ed was there, uh, that leads some of your rides with the fools and
Yeah.
helps you out a lot. And I was like, well, hey, okay, there's a couple of people here. We'll have like 2 or 3 people. That'd be great. And we met at the Big Muskie Bucket outside of McConnellsville on Saturday morning. And I remember I got there was like 20 people there, 20
Yeah.
bikes. I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
You never know who's going to show up until the day of, and yeah, it just ended up being a picture perfect day, and people really enjoyed the experience because I think a lot of people are looking for just kind of a turnkey experience where they can show up and I kind of planned it out and everything for them, and they didn't have to break out the map and
Right.
explore what was open and what was closed and all that. But we had a really enjoyable time, and then I decided to make it a thing, one for kind of every season. So we had a spring camp and ride and a summer camp and ride down section 6, and this past October we had the fall camp and ride at the same section 5 at the Big Muskie Bucket,
Yeah.
and there were 60 people that showed up, which just
Yeah.
blew me away.
Yeah.
And that Jesse Owens State Park right there that we camp at, it is, as of now, still, it is the only state-owned property that you can camp for free. It used to
Yeah.
be the AEP area, um,
Yeah.
but we had this campground there. There's probably 40 or 50 spots in there, and I thought it was going to be sold out. I mean,
Yeah.
we were packing the entire campground. I was afraid I was going to have to try to find other campgrounds and
Yeah.
or squeeze a bunch of tents together, but we had 60 people that showed up, and it was just a fantastic experience. We took a group picture, and I told him, I said, all right, you're going to have to get in the bucket,
Yeah. Yeah.
to take this. And if you've been to the Big Muskie Bucket, it's a massive,
It's huge.
uh, yeah, bucket from the Big Muskie, the drag line. But all 60 people fit in there, so that's how many
Look at the
adventure
picture.
riders can fit in that thing.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I remember the picture, and I remember talking to you after that occurred, and just how surprised you were by the turnout. But truthfully,
Yeah,
since I've been doing this for a minute, I was told by a friend of mine when I first started doing this, like right at the very beginning, and he kind of said, "If you build it, they will come." And
yeah,
I think he's right. Like if you put together a good thing, people are going to want to come out to it. So it's awesome that you've been able to highlight Ohio adventure riding for sure. And it's funny going back to, you kind of mentioned the Fool's Ride territory. Like you kind of, your goat does skirt it a bit.
yeah,
And you came up last year to the Fool's Ride, and last minute I kind of recruited you to lead a group. It was super awesome of you. And then this year, same thing. You're volunteering to come up and lead another ride. And I think it's perfect to use the goat at the full
yeah,
ride and highlight it. So I'm hoping that we can put together, if you do have a loop up here by then, that we
yeah.
can have you lead that. You can lead your own little goat specific ride, which would be great.
Oh yeah, lots of stops for history and taking pictures. But yeah, the Fools Ride Rally, and I mean, not just because I'm talking to you, but for me, it is my favorite adventure rally in Ohio. And the
Appreciate
reason I
that.
say that is there's less people than there is
Yep.
at like March Madness or
Yeah.
Waylon Wayne.
Yeah.
But I like that you cap it at a certain number. Um, one for logistical purposes
Yeah.
and food and things like that. But uh, maybe secondly, so that way Jim doesn't have to do too much cleanup, afterwards. But this past year, 2024 was my first ever Fools Ride rally, and I hadn't really explored that part of Ohio um, up until that point. I mean, the Great Ohio Adventure Trail, sections that kind of run through,
Yeah.
Minerva and everything out west, but I really hadn't been that far east, so I really got to experience kind of that same joy and excitement of discovering a new place.
Yeah.
I'd never been to Richmond, Ohio, or Bergholz or any
Yeah.
of those places up there. So I remember the first day I went with I was in Ed's group in the
Yeah.
Challenge ADV group,
Yeah.
and I had just bought a KTM 890 Adventure back in December and had not dropped it
Yeah.
up until I rode with Ed. There was a washout. There had been a bunch of rain I think that week, and
Yep.
the road was washed out, so we had to go around, and there was this big muddy thing I had to go through, and that kind of goes back to that. Here we are, we're tackling the same obstacle. The whole
Yeah.
group, we're all in it together, and uh, I remember hitting that mud thing, and that was the first time I dropped the bike. Was right there,
Yep.
just lost momentum, and we got her picked up and went across a little creek and dropped the bike for the second time ever within a span of like 3 minutes. But just that loop and the work that you've done in scouting that territory and your efforts were obviously appreciated and uh, I mean led to me having just a wonderful experience up there and it's cool explore somewhere you've never been, or hadn't spent a lot of time in, and just going to that rally really immersed me in that again. And uh, maybe this year or in the coming years, I can bring a smaller bike in and tackle some of those little playgrounds and some of that wild stuff that you like to do.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate that, dude, for sure. But for everybody out there that's listening, I know the Fool's Ride is sold out, but if you go to my website and you pull up the registration page for the Fool's Ride and you look through all the pictures that I attached to that registration page, you can see Brad popping his head up over his fallen down bike as he's sitting on the ground next to it. It's picture number 2 on the registration page.
Oh
So
boy, yeah, I have not seen that yet. Yeah, I was like a little meerkat popping out
yeah,
of the hole, you know.
yeah. You're like, hey, did anybody see that?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering why people started calling me a tree hugger after that. It's because I went off the bike and went right into a tree and just held
Uh,
on for dear life. And but yeah, what a awesome time the Fool's Ride Rally is. And I really hope, if there's some people that drop out or whatever, people that you know can still get an opportunity to go. And
yeah,
hey, there's always next year. And it's one of the best times in Ohio.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I definitely got a wait list going. Um, I think we're maybe 10 or 12 deep on the wait list, but usually that's, pretty close to how many people end up dropping out of that
Right.
size of event anyway. So, you know, that's the goal, is to get, people the opportunity to get out and test themselves a little bit like you did, even though that wasn't specifically intended on that route. It was just, we happened to have a nice culvert washout, and you guys
Yeah.
had a bypass on that you can try out. And it was fun to look at the pictures of your group going around that, because you weren't the only one that
Oh yeah.
ate shit that day. But it was kind of fun to see the camaraderie, because that's really that little minor trauma piece. It wasn't hard. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
like Superman had to do it. It's definitely like a challenge, especially if you're not used to that type of thing. But to see people lining up along that little track and pointing and dragging
Yeah.
bikes, and that was really, you know, the goal of every group that goes out is to have that opportunity for sure.
I would say before before this adventure riding thing, I mean, if you would have put me in that same situation 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I I would have just, chickened out and turned around and went home probably. But the confidence that you gain from just the experience and just kind of mastering the skill of riding a motorcycle off road, uh,
Yeah.
really really helps out. And just getting through it and everybody working together, it really gave me that that swagger, that I was like, man, I could do this, I could do anything.
Yep.
And that's part of going to rallies like that and encountering those things. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know when the tree's going to go down.
Yeah, that's definitely like the best part of it for sure. So I was trying, like, as we were leading into doing this conversation, I was trying to remember, like, where, because I remember, obviously the things that we have built kind of help people find us, and I'm pretty sure that's how I heard about you, was through like your Lost at Last and the goat thing. But I think the first time we actually met might have been at Adventure Riders of Ohio potluck that we do at
Yeah.
generally every February. And I remember, I think we met there and we had a chance to actually talk for a while, which was really cool.
Yeah, I actually, funny story, I probably never told you, but the first time that I thought that I had met you was at Whalen Wayne in 2022. And I remember I saw this guy, just big burly guy with a beard. He had a he had a jersey that said Kane on the back. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
like, this is him. This is Kane Wagner. This is Appalachian ADV. So I went up to this guy and I'm like, hey man, just appreciate what you do, and yeah, thanks for being you. And he was
yeah,
like, yeah, sure thing, man. Yeah. Um, for sweeping rider. It was Matt Kane,
yeah,
not Kane
Matt.
Wagner. Great guy.
That's
But
funny.
And then I ended up talking to you at the potluck. I remember the next year, and I had just started the YouTube thing, just started putting stuff out. And I think I maybe had like 20 subscribers or something. And I remember you came up to me and was like, "Hey man, I watch your stuff. It's pretty good." And I'm like, "You watch my stuff?" Like, man, like, all right. I thought it was just grandma, grandpa, and the family, like that was
Yeah.
just doing it. But that's what it's all about, people just supporting each other. And I was just over the moon that you'd watch my stuff. But yeah, and over time, just as Lost at Last has grown, I think Appalachian ADV and Lost at Last kind of have similar, objectives, with building the adventure community and being good stewards of the lands that we traverse through um, and just appreciation of the places that we see in historical sites and I think we're on the same page, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been great. It's, working towards doing this thing in 2019. I just when I built the website, started doing some events, and you're building a thing too. It's not an easy thing to do to build that thing. But as it's grown and it's gotten to be more of an actual thing and people recognize it and kind of know what I'm trying to do, like this past year, it's been okay, what can we do to help this community and to keep it going? And I think, finding like-minded people like you that want to, you know, keep the community going and have something to offer. I think that's been what I've been trying to do now is, help people out. Like that's kind of like where we need to be, I think, to make this thing keep going for sure.
Yeah.
And all the work you're doing specifically in Ohio for sure has been, it's been noticed. People are noticing it, and it's great to see the interest and um, let's see where we can keep going with this thing, basically.
Yeah, it's it's funny. I tell people when they come up to me, I tell them like, look, I just threw together a couple roads that I liked riding. I'm just glad other people like riding them too. With the trail and just really just being able to give back and just really help people out. I mean, that's what I'm in it for, you know, not in it for fame or notoriety or whatever. It's just just a way to give back to the people that helped me out so much. You talked about Adventure Riders Ohio, the Facebook group. The Facebook groups are huge, and the community in that thing, just from the people that supported me when I was new, and I said, "Hey, what oil should I run in this DR 650 thing?" And of course, there's people that are, "Oh, there's the tires and oil question again," but there's people that gave their time and gave me a good answer, and especially with tires, I mean,
Yeah,
there's a million different tires out there, but the people that took their time to say, well, if you're going to do, 50/50 riding, maybe do this, or
yeah,
if you're going to do more aggressive stuff, maybe get some like Motos tractionators or whatever, or hey, what gear should I get?
yeah,
Well, you don't have to drop, $2,000 on a climb set. You could get, something like like a Griffin Moto or whatever. But the people that just took their time to help me, I want to pay them back by helping other people who are just getting into it
yeah.
and don't know what you know, a GPX file is from a PDF file. I mean, there's a little bit of a learning curve,
Oh yeah,
with understanding, the navigation, units and it ain't turn by turn, directions, like going on Google Maps. It's you follow the line, but
yeah,
until somebody kind of helps you, you know, walk through that, you're just not going to know. So people help me, and I just want to help other people get into it and just explore the world around them and maybe learn a little history too.
yeah, for sure. Um, so before we kind of close this thing out, um, is there anything else that maybe we haven't covered that you're wanting to talk about, or
the future of adventure travel, uh, it, there's never been a better time to get out and explore the world around you. Um, and I think you're doing an amazing thing with what you do with the tours, the rallies, and the clinics too. I got to sign up for one of those things, man. Maybe I won't drop the bike so much. Me and you went out a couple months back, and I think you had to ride my bike a couple times because I was a little scared, you know. But now what you do, man, for the community is awesome. I mean, there's people out there like Matt McCourt, Life's Journey at 50.
Yeah,
That guy is out there just living the dream and exploring places and just being a much better rider than he was at the beginning, just like everybody. And
yeah,
I'm always looking for ways to give back and make the community better. I think here in the near future, more nonprofit,
yeah,
just to be able to support the people in the communities better. I think we have a, a tremendous opportunity to work with our communities and governments as far as preserving access and things too. They have a really awesome program down in West Virginia called the Country Roads Coalition,
yeah,
and they actually work with the state legislators to keep roads open and fight for access to those roads. They have a really neat thing where, because I know we've all ran into a couple of homemade, no trespassing or
yeah,
road closed signs. They have a thing where if you see a road in West Virginia that has a questionable road sign, you can go to this website and like report it, and they have to send somebody within, a week or whatever it is. They have to send somebody out there to investigate that, and
yeah,
they let you know if it's actually closed or, oh yeah, it looks like Johnny was just out here trying to keep people off his road again.
yeah,
But I think something like that could be beneficial in the Buckeye State even.
for sure.
So maybe working, towards that. Just building relationships with people because I think people that aren't familiar with what we do, they think about the they always think about the folks who go about it the wrong way with the loud pipes and making the ruts and all that stuff.
Yeah,
That is automatically who you're drawn to. And those people are the ones going to the township meetings and saying, yeah, we need to close this road because people are tearing it up.
yeah,
There needs to be somebody fighting for the access. Hey, we're going to bring people through here and we'll do some trail maintenance every now and then, and we're going to bring a bunch of money to your community,
yeah,
and you need somebody fighting for us, and I think that's something that Lost at Last could certainly do, in the future. I
yeah,
think with the camping rides too, those have been super awesome. I really love the small, intimate events where there's like 10 or 15 people or whatever, and you got that small circle that's around the campfire and just kind of hanging out and just that camaraderie that you build through those.
yeah,
I think the fall camping ride, we're actually going to add an extra day this year, and we're going to start making that into kind of a rally kind of deal where there's multiple loops and things to do,
yeah,
and we'll see where that goes. But people have been enjoying that because obviously the awesome terrain and roads and the change in leaves, the fall
yeah.
colors.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, putting stuff like that on and the future is so bright. I think I need a pair of sunglasses. Yeah, it's just an amazing time to be involved and just to be um, just talking to people like you who you just want to get out and show people a good time and teach them to be better and it's a great thing.
It's awesome, man. So I'm really looking forward to Lost at Last, the nonprofit, and for sure you
Yeah,
let me know what Appalachian ADV can do to help out with that for sure, man.
yeah, appreciate that.
Awesome. On that note, we're going to close out the podcast and look for Brad at the Fool's Ride. He'll be leading the ride for me. And
Yeah.
hopefully we get him back out on that Allegheny tour and he can be the guest suite.
Yeah, I tell you that tour was it was one of the best experiences I think that I've had on a bike. A couple reasons. You know, first I'd never really explored that area, so I had that drive to, oh man, what's around the next corner too. But I that was really the first time I think that me and you have spent a significant amount of time together.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've seen you at different things and went to your Fool's Ride and
Yep.
all that, but really just to watch you work with people and all that was incredible. Because I mean there was people at the beginning where I didn't know if they were going to be able to make the ride or
Yeah.
do it. And by the end, they were seasoned adventure riders,
Well, cool.
veterans of the adventure travel world. But
Yeah.
just through the little coaching and things that you did, and just the obstacles that we encountered too. We had a couple of
Yeah.
fallen trees. Just working, seeing everybody work together and really just come together like a family. That's kind of what you are at the end of one of those things. Is
Yeah.
you're kind of a small little family. But that was a tremendous experience.
Same with your stuff, man. Your group rides have great feedback, so hopefully we just get more and more people out and enjoying nature, man.
Yeah, I'd say if you are interested in checking out some of the Great Ohio Adventure Trail or some of the events, you can head to my website, lostatlatladv.com, and check out some route information, and I'll put some things on there for the events and things like that, and as well as the social media and the Goat Facebook group.